Hello, beautiful people. Be most welcome to today's episode of COVID Around the World. This show is all about bringing real people from different backgrounds and different countries and ask them to share to you what are their views and perspectives about this pandemic. I'm VH, and here's our guest of today.
So my name is Tobias Leenaert. I just tell that because you just said my first name. And I'm vegan activist. I wrote a book, How to Create a Vegan World. I give trainings, a lot of talks. I have co-founded a couple of organizations, vegan organizations, and I am living in Belgium, near a small city, basically in the countryside, where me and my girlfriend are, quarantining more or less.
Today we're speaking a little bit of the pandemic that affects us today, even though we can speak a little bit more about how this carnage behavior that we have creates this pandemic. But tell us, Belgium has been targeted by a lot of people as a bad example, and some as also a very good example, which is a little bit dystopic. But the numbers say that Belgium is, if I'm not mistaken, the worst or one of the worst countries in the European Union in terms of numbers. So what is happening over there? What are the governmental measures? Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, well, first of all, so the fact that many people seem to think that, and the statistics show that we are one of the most hit countries in terms of cases of death per capita, is actually that we are counting differently than all of the other countries, which is annoying, which is, I think, not the best idea. But we are counting also all the cases that might be corona cases. So all the people dying in retirement homes, all those people are counted as corona cases, as COVID cases. As soon as COVID has been detected in that retirement home, all the deaf people there are counted as corona cases, even though they're not confirmed, even though they have not been tested. So apparently we are overestimating the number of deaths, while other countries may be underestimating the number of deaths. So I don't think we are hit as much as those numbers that we have say, but the government wants to have really the best possible overview of all the cases, and that's why they're counting all these cases, even though maybe or probably it is an overestimation.
Yeah, well, yeah, it makes sense. In Portugal, as far as I know, also some kind of strategy, let's call it, on cases as to be if they have coronavirus, it doesn't matter what was the death, what was, if they had another disease, they still count it like that. Other countries are not doing it, which is also very hard and very unfair to make comparisons or take conclusions on those comparisons. So, yeah. And what so what is the government saying what is the government saying to the people? Are they saying to stay at home? Are they saying that is it a lockdown? Is it being enforced? Is it volunteer quarantining? What's happening?
Yeah, it's pretty strict. We call it lockdown light, but so we have to stay at home. We can go to work if we can't. I mean, home working should be, everybody should work at home who can work at home. But if you can't, you can go to an office, but there you have to be careful at the office, etc. All restaurants are closed. Most shops are closed except for essential shops. We're not supposed to see anybody out of the house, like we can't visit our parents or whatever. We can only visit people. I mean, we can only be with the people that we live with. And it is enforced in the sense that police are checking traffic and checking to see if you're going somewhere where we shouldn't go. So it's pretty strict. It's pretty well followed up also.
Now there's also a control, authority control.
Definitely.
What do they check? Do they check if you have a permission?
Yeah, they
to go
check if you have a
somewhere?
reason. So they ask you like, where are you going? And they would check if you're with more than two people in the car, if you're how close to your house you are, etc. We are allowed to like do biking and hiking, etc., which are not allowed everywhere. So that's good. But yeah, it is a pretty strict situation.
And how are the people taking that? Are they taking lightly? They think it's necessary? Do they agree with the measures, or are they against the government and claiming more freedom?
Yeah, I think we're, as a whole, as a people, we are a pretty, people that easily agrees to things. We're like
Okay.
used to being subjugated by other countries, by maybe even by your country, I don't know, Portugal. We've been subjugated by everybody throughout history, so I guess we're used to that. But yeah, we're pretty obedient, and I think there's not too many protests. There are some, I mean, there are obviously people who are like not listening to the rules and who get fined. But there's not been any like big protests. I mean, people cannot come to the streets like in the US. So I think there is a rather high, an unexpectedly high trust in the government, which is surprising because Belgium has a history of, I mean, this government that we have right now is an interim government, because after the last elections, we were not able to form a government. I mean, they were not able to form a coalition.
Okay, so they are temporary.
Yeah, I think we've been without a government for 250 days or something. This is not a record. We had a previous record that was longer,
Okay.
but we've been without a government for a long time. And because of the Corona crisis, they installed an interim government. Without the Corona crisis, we would not even have the interim government. But of course, Belgium is a different, complex country. We have a federal government, and when we have regional governments for Flanders, Brussels, and Wallonia.
Yeah, even though you're such a small country in terms of dimension, you still have like a federation.
Yeah,
It's interesting. It's interesting.
Actually, today I saw somebody from the Socialist Party claiming that the complex structure of our country has caused more lives to be lost than otherwise would have been lost. So because of just the mere complexity of the structure of the country, politics, we've got more death than otherwise.
And do you agree with that? And is it because it's hard to everyone to come to a consensus?
Yeah, I think it might very well be true. Many things are quite complicated in this country because we have these different governments and people fighting, and it might very well be the case that things have gone much less efficiently than they otherwise would have gone with like a uniform one government.
Makes sense. I guess there are good and bads on that. I'm an anarchist myself, and I remember one sentence that a good friend of mine said, anarchist as well. I'm anarchist by law, but I don't want the fire department to work in anarchy.
Right. Yeah.
And I think it applies to a bit to what you're saying. So, and tell me about your life. I know you have, as a writer, you take a lot of time. You try to be in nature to get your ideas. You try to live your life in the let's call it quiet manner compared to the rush of other people. How does this pandemic have affected your daily life?
So we moved not so long ago from the city to the countryside a year ago. I have been working from home a lot, and I have been less frequently to the city since we moved. So the change after the pandemic has not been all that big for me. I have been being at home as I usually am. What has gone away, what has disappeared are the travels I make for speaking and for training. So I normally travel internationally to give trainings and talks. I also, within the country, I often go speak or I'm in a panel or whatever. And so now I'm just working from home. I find it not easy to concentrate, not just because of the pandemic, but just in general, I find concentration is an issue. I think it's something to do with social media and the fact that we're like so distracted all the time. And doing deep work, focusing like even for an hour, even for half an hour on writing something is really hard, has gotten really hard. Like you are so easily like tempted to check something, to check this, to check that. And yeah, I have a hard time doing that.
I understand, and I share the same feeling actually. And going back to society in general in Belgium, do you see a light in the end of the tunnel? Did the government already said when are they gonna take away the measures and return business as usual?
Yeah, we are working on the exit strategy right now, and we have already some dates in the future at which other things might be possible. In the near future, we're going to be allowed to see other people from outside of the family or the household. And then there's dates, there's a date set, I think, in July or something where the restaurants might go open again. And there's in the nearer future more stores will open. So there is, yeah, there is some light at the end of the tunnel. But we all know that it shouldn't go too fast, and it's possible that there will be another increase in cases later in the year, in winter or whatever. So everybody is still very much on guard.
Okay, and now going back to our field, let's call it, bringing the vegan agenda here, has, at least I've been seeing a lot in social media, some people claiming that this has been good for the animals, some claiming that not so good for the animals. But at least I would like to, I'm hopeful, maybe naive, I'm being naive, I don't know, but I'm hopeful that we have an opportunity now to rethink our the way we see animals and the way we think about this exploitation and how we use them. So I have two questions for you about this. How do you see it? How do you, what is your perspective on the impact that this slowdown and this pandemic has on to the animals, to the ones that we exploit? And the second one is if we now have this golden opportunity of rethinking our relationship with the animals, namely with zoos, understanding, having the empathy, what it is to be in restrict in movement, and also with the consumption of animals. When we see that we can get some pandemics and diseases through that same consumption.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a lot of different factors at play and a lot of possible interpretations. I don't have the definitive answers, but some things that I would observe. I mean, first of all, I don't think the work that animal rights activists, organizations are doing right now, I don't think it has gotten any more efficient. I mean, I don't think our impact, the impact of our work has increased. I mean, the time that people spend on working for the animals is time that they are spending now without live events, without the possibility to maybe fundraise as much, without all kinds of things, without contact with people. So I don't think it benefits the actual advocacy work. That's one thing. Another thing is that, if you look at the consumption of people, non-vegans, is there a difference in the consumption? Are they discovering new things to eat? Is there an opportunity to learn about new things, new foods, for instance, that they may pick up and then make a habit out of that? Maybe in terms of shortages of some foods, there is a possibility for people to do that. I heard that in my country, the biggest soy producer company, a company of soy milk, is seeing really good growth because here and there they're out of milk. In the US, there might be meat shortages, and maybe in those periods, people might try an alternative. Even as the demand for meat is increasing, because apparently people are eating more meat while they're at home than when they go out in a restaurant or something. So that's another factor. And then what you said, being locked up.
Sorry to interrupt you here. So you're saying that the meat demand increased, but we're talking about supermarkets, or we're talking about all the distributors claiming to the source, to the farmers?
I'm not exactly sure where the numbers come from. I just read that demand has increased or has gone up, but I'm not sure where people are. I mean, I would think that those numbers are based on supermarket sales, but I'm not sure.
Okay, and this was in the US, correct?
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
because what I'm seeing is that actually the supermarkets numbers are increasing, yes. Although at least the numbers that I know are in Slovakia, and I know the meat demand has increased by a lot, but I also know that towards the animals themselves, so the farmers are selling less meat, less animals. In Portugal, for example, there was, I didn't check how big this or how true this news was, but one newspaper said that some farmers in one region of Portugal, they had to just kill the animals just because they couldn't sell them. So they were already expecting to sell that amount of animals, and they couldn't, and now it cost them money to just support them, and they chose to kill them. So the information I have, at least here in Europe, is that the demand is decreasing, but of course the supermarket numbers are increasing. Sorry to interrupt you, just to be a little bit.
Yeah. To that point, I mean, maybe what's the case is, what is the case in the US apparently, is that because some slaughterhouses are closed, because circumstances in slaughterhouses are unhygienic, and it's difficult to keep social distancing there, etc. Slaughterhouses have a lot of sick people, they have to close, and because of that, there's a lower slaughtering capacity. And so for that reason, or that might be the reason that maybe that's the same in Portugal, I don't know, that some farmers cannot get their animals, or the in between, the middleman between the farmers and the supermarkets, they can't get the animals to the slaughterhouse because the slaughterhouse is closed, and that's why they cannot be bought. And that's why the farmer is dealing with an overflow of their own animals. So that might be the case. Anyway,
you were speaking then to, when I interrupt, you were talking about the lockdown, the possible empathy.
Yeah. So I hadn't thought of that, and if I hadn't thought of it, I'm assuming that it's not the first thing on people's minds. In general, I think that, I mean, is this an opportunity? It really depends. If this turns into an economic crisis, all else being equal, I don't think an economic crisis is a good thing for the environment, for animals, for whatever. I think economic crisis mostly means fear, mostly means business as usual, mostly means not being innovative, etc. So I'm afraid that it is possible that that we'll have other things on our minds after this crisis, or pensions and whatever, and that the idea that people are just going to all of a sudden start thinking like, oh my God, yeah, what situation have we created, etc. That is maybe wishful thinking of the woke people, you know. I'm not sure. I hope I'm wrong, but that is possible. I think the possibility is more real that we make a link between COVID or pandemics in general and animal exploitation or being very close to animals. I think the link is there. It's not absolute. It's nothing we should, as vegans, exaggerate. But I would say that any intense contact with animals and any intense contact among animals is a risk factor, is a factor that increases the risk of pandemics. And that goes for the wet markets in China, but also for intensive factory farming in the Western world. So I think that there is a possibility that we will realize that this COVID epidemic or pandemic is a dress rehearsal for an even bigger pandemic and a worse one, and that we have to protect ourselves against that. And that one of the ways to protect ourselves against that is to reevaluate the relationship we have with animals and the way we produce them and the way we interact with them, and see where it is necessary to interact with animals and see where maybe it can be de-intensified. I have more hopes for that than I have hopes for the idea that like people will now understand what it's like to be in confinement. So yeah, those are some ways in which this crisis could be good or bad for the animals and for the vegan movement.
Yeah, makes sense. I have been accused of being a wishful thinker, so it's possible. It's personally possible. I do agree with you in a lot of you say. Nevertheless, I do see it as a golden opportunity. I don't see. I don't think that the vegan agenda is well lobbied, is well placed in, or is mature enough yet to take this opportunity and have the lobbies in the right places, even though it's way better than when I first became vegan. We are in everywhere in society. That's nice to see, but still I don't think we are still mature enough. In Portugal, for example, we have a party that is in parliament with 3 people that do this lobbying and very well. Luckily, but it's not the case in other countries like the country that I'm at. So yeah, I would really love to see us being a little bit more mature and see the end goal, the animals and what they benefit or not. So and I will ask you to end our interview today. I'll ask you to give a word of advice to any of our viewers. Want to a carnist that I've been receiving, thanks to the new documentaries and all the information out there. I've been receiving a lot of cries for help on how to become to make vegan meals or even to become vegan. So one word of advice to our viewers that want to have that on how can they do it, and also one word of advice of someone wishful thinker like me that would like to take this golden opportunity. What will be the best way to advocate for the vegan lobby?
Yeah, so for people who want to go vegan or more vegan, one thing that I've discovered during my quarantine period here is those meal delivery services, like the ones that like drop something at your home, like all the ingredients with the recipe, and the recipe you have to put together yourself. So you know that, like
I know one company in the United States that does it. I didn't even know there was someone doing that here in Europe.
I mean, there's many companies who do it, like HelloFresh is one of the biggest ones, or Marley Spoon. I have one here that also does vegan dishes, and I was thinking like this is really a good way for people to get acquainted with it, because you have everything at your door. You have all the ingredients, you have the recipe. It's a simple recipe. It's not extremely expensive. I mean, in our case, it's all organic, and it's like around €7 a meal. It's not cheap either, but for here it's okay. So I think that's a really easy way to get into it. And I think actually vegan organizations should explore partnerships with those companies to see if like we can mass produce these things and make them cheaper, and so get food and recipes at the door of everybody who wants to try. So that's one thing. And another thing, maybe simpler, is just get a cookbook and start experimenting. And for you, I mean, for the wishful thinkers, or for people like who want to exploit the golden opportunity, I think we are still in a phase where we're like acquiring information. And I would say like there's organizations who have bundled everything there is to know, or vegan organizations, everything there is to know about COVID, and have created kits, packages of the things they've concluded, and all kind of resources. I think I would start there with like getting informed and seeing not just the facts on the crisis, but also the meta facts on what do people think, for instance, about me when I talk about the link between COVID and animal farming. We are doing those researches right now, and we starting to know something about how people respond to making that link. So that is obviously an important thing to know. And I'm also expecting that this will change over time, so that people might be very sensitive right now to it, that they may become a bit less sensitive over time, and that we have to be really, if we want to use this opportunity to make people more conscious, that we have to do it at the right time. That time might be of the essence.
Yes, makes perfect sense. If I can, you remind me of something, the relationship between people asking me on how to be more vegan. And now that I see, I have some friends that used to work in vegan restaurants, and now they're out of work. Why not online make yourself the food at home, or make collections like Tobias was saying of these companies. What the company that I know of, and I know it because of the stock market, Blue Apron. As soon as it was the lockdown on the United States, it went ballistic, like 400%, something like that. For the stock market, that's like, those are insane numbers. And yeah, this company did that. So yeah, definitely put your word out there, prepare the things, be creative. And there's a lot of people, really a lot of people. I get messages and calls on people. Oh, what can I do? One of the cases that for me was so important was that one of the kids that in a very, very young age, a parent called me, my son wants to be vegan, what do I do? So please, if you have knowledge, put it out there. Make it easier for people that do want to do this, follow this path. For the vegans already, the vegans activists, this information, I think it's very helpful, because I see a lot of times a lot of passion and not so much like what to do. We go more with our egos than actually what matters the most. So Tobias, thank you very much for being with us. I appreciate a lot your presence here, and I hope everything goes well there in Belgium.
Thank you very much, and good luck to you too.
And I hope you're wrong about the golden opportunity.
I hope I'm wrong.
What about you? What are your opinions on the matter? Do you have any experience you would like to share with us? Let us know in the comments below. And if you like what you see, you could support me by hitting the like button, subscribing to the channel, and help me becoming a full-time YouTuber by donating through the link in the video description. Thank you, and see you in the next video.